Over the last 3 years or so, I have made just over 100 of these fun little runs. And every time I upload them, I get requests for more. It's like a never-ending cycle that fuels the fires of creation. However, sometimes I'll try a challenge and due to one reason or another, I'll end up shelving the idea for later, and in some cases this causes people to rightly wonder if I'll ever get around to said runs. Well, that's what this video is going to be about. I'm not sure what I'm calling the video as of yet, but let's go over some runs that I'd started recording at one point and then just stopped for whatever reason. The most obvious one is first. Back in 2021, when this channel was starting to hit its stride, one of the first videos I tried to record before I essentially became a primary Bethesda-focused channel was completing Fable Anniversary without taking any damage. It is one of 2 videos on this list where I actually recorded all of the footage, so what gives? The long and short of it is that Fable 1 is absurdly easy. This is no more apparent than by the time of this upload I have already beaten the game both at level 1 and with the stick, neither of which were very taxing, the latter of which just being a bit time consuming. The no damage run was no exception. Well, once I got past that first combat test with Whisper anyway. This was all simply down to the fact that Fable 1 gives you a spell that drains magic instead of health whenever you get hit, so once I picked that up, it was quite literally already over. Granted, I pretty much figured that out right away, so that was when I shifted gears to the level 1 run. Now there is always the option that I might go back to the idea one day and just avoid using the physical shield spell, but as of right now, I'm not really thinking about it. Since I just talked about one of the 2 runs I had all the footage for, I may as well go straight to the other that was near completion. Halo Infinite with only the grapple was such a great idea and concept, and I was sadly stupid enough to tease the video in a community post back in late December of 2021. I had only barely started the run whenever I posted that. I think I had just made it to the open world section. Despite what some of you might think, the issue wasn't using the grapple to kill bosses as the reason for no upload. Sure, it took a while for some of the beefier ones, but I am a patient man. The real problem was how I decided to tackle just about everything else. A very common criticism of Halo Infinite is that the grapple hook is so effective that it essentially allows you to bypass ever having to engage with the enemy in the open world, and some of the levels as well. And yes, wouldn't you know it, that's basically what I did. Sure, I may have been able to feel like bootleg Spider-Man, which was fun at times, but do you know how hard it is to commentate over a video when 90% of the encounters just have me zipping overhead with the nearby aliens doing their very best impersonation of the Genome Soldiers from Metal Gear Solid 1? The footage you're seeing on screen right now has been recorded the day of me writing this and isn't part of the original footage. This is just so I can give you an idea of what the run could look like if I was not a partial pacifist. If you do want to see somebody attempt the run, then may I recommend Rokambasco's video on the same challenge. No spoilers from me, but there is a part in the video where he comes up against 2 very difficult enemies and manages to solve the problem in a much more interesting fashion than I ever did. Alright, nice and easy one to explain. New Vegas was simply being New Vegas. Next. Okay, more context. I think I went over this in my 100k subscribers Q&A video. You should really watch that video if you have any questions. But essentially, here's what happened. Like any other chase video, the first thing to do is to get Ringo to follow me. This is simply done one of 2 ways, both of which involve finishing the Ghost Town gunfight quest. The first one is that the instant the last powder ganger is killed, you just start running, as Ringo will begin approaching you like a heat-seeking missile, very intent on paying you for murdering his problems. The other way is basically the same, except you let him talk to you here, then instead you walk all the way over to the Crimson Caravan Company, where he will once again run you down to hand over the second half of his blood money. Getting him to follow in Goodsprings is of course the better option. If for nothing else, it means he's on your ass sooner rather than later, which of course makes the run, both the video and the activity itself, a lot more interesting. The problem lies in the fact that Ringo is very sensitive to all forms of damage, and unlike say Kowalski or Malcolm, he seems to be targeted by just about everything. Malcolm was never attacked by other creatures, for example, because of the way he was designed in the game. They see him as an ally or just don't bother him, whereas Ringo will be torn limb from limb by just about anything. Now, there was of course a very simple solution to this, which was to open the console and make him immortal. This is where the real run ender kicked in, however. For whatever reason, after Ringo ends a fight with anything at this point, he stops chasing the player and seemingly starts making his way back to either Goodsprings or the Crimson Caravan Company. At this point, getting him to chase me would probably require a mod to get it to work flawlessly, and if I'm going to be honest, I cannot be bothered with all of that just to have another variation of a similar video, only this time it's a Ringo skin on it. As I said at the start of the Nuka Freak video a few weeks back, that's probably going to be my last ever chase video from New Vegas, as the idea has really been pushed to its limit in that game by this stage. I'll still get to that Skyrim Courier video one day though, so spoiler warning, no, it's not in this video. Another chase video is though. These were joke thumbnails in 2 separate videos. They were never, ever going to be full runs. May as well stick with the field Fallout runs while we're here. Fallout 76 with no weapons. To mention it again, you can see a good bit of this run in the Q&A video, as it's what I decided to use for the majority of the background footage. Fallout 76 is probably one of the games I get requested to cover the most on the channel, believe it or not. I mean, I suppose it makes sense, as it's the only 3D Fallout I've never made a dedicated video on. Plus, it also might have something to do with the fact that within the last year, I want to say, Bethesda released a weapon skin for Lincoln's Repeater from Fallout 3. I knew the moment I saw that just what was about to happen, and sure enough, the requests began to flood in. But that's a different video. What does that have to do with my inability to finish the no weapons run? Well, they both never came to be for the exact same reason. I got bored. 5 years since its release, I have actually tried about 6 different times to get into Fallout 76, and while it has elements that I legitimately enjoy, for one, its map is honestly amazing, I just always found myself losing interest before I could get very far. Even trying to play it casually to get a better feel for it, the furthest I ever got was to like level 14, and considering I have seen people post screenshots online of their characters with levels in the hundreds, well, I think it's fair to say I was barely even able to scratch the surface before I tapped out. It's always possible I try again in the future and find something to enjoy to the point where I want to make a video, but I wouldn't hold out too much hope. After all, most people at this stage have probably moved on to Starfield content. I know I'm certainly planning to. Alright, last Fallout run on the list, and it's one that is very much in the maybe category, as I stopped working on it for the most New Vegas reason ever. The mod simply kept crashing the game anytime I tried to swim too far outside of the vicinity of Goodsprings. I have zero ideas why this kept happening, but that's the joy of New Vegas on PC, I suppose. I don't even have any footage to show for this one. That is because it was recorded off an old PC that I no longer have, and to be entirely blunt here, I have not and don't know if I will install New Vegas on the new PC. That is simply because there's really no point. I record all of my runs off of the Xbox Series X now, and I have for well over a year, simply because, especially in New Vegas' case, the games run pretty much flawlessly. The only time that New Vegas crashes somewhat consistently is that maybe there's 1 or 2 crashes during the final battle at Hoover Dam when crossing the dam. But other than that, it's fine. I will take that over trying to mess with mods any day of the week. Ugh. Alright, let's talk about it. You all may remember me saying this at the end of my Arkham Knight No Damage run. Also, yes, I will do a video on Gotham Knights when it comes out, don't worry. And like Master Chief once said, when you agree to do something for a person or persons, it's imperative that you follow through with that accord no matter what happens. Or something like that. While that is indeed true, and when going into my first playthrough of the game, I was very much intent on recording a no damage run after I finished the story, the problem is I never finished the story. To help paint you a picture, I got the game on release, but at the time I was busy working on my Jason Voorhees run, so didn't really have the time to set aside to play it. Whenever I finished that run and did manage to find the opportunity, I was very quickly greeted by what I can only describe as Arkham Light or Diet City. The basics were all still there: melee combat, dodging, stealth takedowns. Actually, no, there weren't any counters, but you get what I mean. At its base fundamentals, it had the Arkham skeleton, but everything just felt off. After trying all of the characters, the only one I found any sort of enjoyment in was Red Hood. Yeah, he was slow as fuck when compared to the others, but he was the only one who did damage worth a damn, making him my automatic go-to, seeing how enemies were rocking more traditional health bars and levels. Basically, I was forcing myself to slog through the game, and at this point, I was somewhat indifferent at best. However, you may realise that Gotham Knights released in late October of 2022. What else do you think I was getting ready to start in late October? Yeah, the Metal Gear Marathon. Since I essentially locked myself in my house for a full week marathoning those games, only stopping for food, bathroom and the very occasional nap breaks, I had zero time to play Gotham Knights. At the end of the week, once I finished getting the Metal Gear footage, well, for one, I looked like this, and had no desire to jump right back into Gotham Knights. That was nearly a year ago, and until I dusted off the box and put the disc in my console to get the background footage, I haven't touched it since. I made a rule with myself after the Arkham Origins video that I wouldn't make a video on a game I disliked ever again. Nobody really wins when I do that. I'm obviously not thrilled at being forced to play something I actively dislike, plus I am just annoying the fans of that game. So that's where Gotham Knights falls. It was something that I did not enjoy, playing it just made me want to play one of the better Arkham games, and so unfortunately there won't be a run around it. At the very least, maybe the Suicide Squad game might be good. To end on a brighter note, this is one I actually want to go back to. In fact, the reason I stopped recording it was simply due to being burnt out from Elden Ring. To get it out of the way now, I loved Elden Ring, thought it was incredible. So much in fact, I went through and did 4 playthroughs within the first month or so of its release because I was having so much fun and decided I wanted to get all of the achievements, meaning multiple runs for different endings. Well, only 2 days after my 4th playthrough was when I decided to start recording the Knuckles run. Don't get it twisted, while I was very much looking forward to the run, it became apparent rather quickly that I was becoming a bit bored with the game, simply from playing it and only it for so long. So that's why the idea was put down for a while. The plan being I would pick it back up, or more likely start over, as I only put 2 hours into the run before I stopped. I haven't really played much of the game since all those 4 runs, but I am eager to jump back in. Even better is that since some time has passed, I now know of things that would be great for the run. For example, thanks to Baron's Castles video, I learned about the goat rolling ring. Initially, I was just going to beat everything to death with either claws or the oversized iron ball fists, but I could totally see myself using the roll as well to help spice things up. I am very curious though how long the video would be. My only other FromSoft video, at least for now, is that Dark Souls one, and it was just over 40 minutes long. Elden Ring is substantially bigger, and we all know sometimes I just can't help myself when it comes to talking. I doubt it would be anywhere close to the length of the Metal Gear Marathon, nothing ever will be again, but it's possible it breaks the 1 hour mark. Nothing wrong with that, mind you. My longer videos tend to be most people's favourites after all. That's about all there is to say on these, so I think it's about time to wrap this video up. Hope you don't mind something a little different this week. I get asked a lot about some of these runs, and I figured this would be the best way to do it, instead of just replying to the same questions by different people every other week. In the meantime, know that I'm still working on the Lincoln and Skyrim video. I'm just going into a lot of detail of the run like the others, so it's becoming a bit bigger than I expected. Again. Hopefully it's out sooner rather than later, and should be my next main challenge video, fingers crossed. Anyway, I will hopefully see you all in the next video.